Hello there, Oscar here from the Virtual Fechtschule, and welcome back to the final episode of the Walk Like a German series, where today we'll be looking at the special types of footwork that you can only find in Legküchner, which is the backward lunge, the cross-stepping and the double step. Now, as per usual, I'll be first giving a couple of background points to consider, and then we'll go into actually showing this type of footwork. It won't be such a long video this time, but let's get straight into it nonetheless. Now, one of the things that these types of footwork that I just mentioned have in common is that they will allow you to change direction. Now, there's a couple of really good reasons why you would want to change direction. First off, of course, that is something you can use to actually plant a hit, whether it be a cut, a thrust or a slice. But it is perhaps even more important towards the end of an exchange, where you have to end the fight in a safe way so that it doesn't become a vulgar brawl where people are just exchanging blows. Such a thing will not stand in a fight with weapons. It's very dangerous. Now, unlike, for instance, Joachim Meyer, the early German sources do not really have a good solution for what to do once you've managed to hit your opponent. There's nothing really explicitly described, such as the Abzug, so we have to look elsewhere. Now, looking closely at the early German sources, you do get a couple of hints of what these masters would want you to do once you've managed to make a hit of some sort. And it appears to be really that they want you to go either past or into your opponent. So walk past them after the hit, or get in and perform a disarm, which will ensure that you can end the fight safely. Now, why this is the case is a bit more hard to say, but a couple of people recently have been making a very strong case that this has something to do with the fact that these Lichtenauer sources are not meant to be read in isolation, but the longsword and foot and Legküchner's Messer should be seen in relation with the Rotsfechten or mounted fencing manuscripts that they were combined with. So, if you're fighting on a horse, that means you're going to be often riding past someone. So being able to perform fencing actions as you're riding past someone is important. And I think it would be very sensible to believe that that ability also carries over to fighting on foot. So that's why we maybe see that a lot of the exchanges are supposed to end by you going forward, going either past or into your opponent. Another reason is that it's really hard to change your direction in a fight. You will probably know the feeling of making a exchange going forward and then kind of being forced to bowl into your opponent because you can't really reverse in time. Now, this becomes a lot worse when you do not really have grippy shoes. Your ability to bounce backwards is really multiplied by having soles with good grip and springy materials in them. So once again, we get back to these awful leather shoes. It's just a lot harder to push off backwards. And if you want to do that, as we're going to be seeing with the backwards lunge, it requires a very specific way of doing that. Instead of going backwards, it's sometimes a better idea to just keep going forwards and just continue your momentum past your opponent. Now, having established that after we've performed a hit or done a couple of fencing actions, we want to get out of there, you have to therefore change your direction. And that's where these specific types of footwork come in. Let's start by looking at the backward lunge. This is one of the few instances where you're actively told to move backwards in Legküchner. And it's only a backwards lunge, it's not a forward lunge. Now, as we've all seen, and you're going to see the same clip again, yes, doing lunges forward on leather shoes is just not great. Doing them backwards works a lot better. Why is that? Because the majority of your weight is going to be on your front leg. That front leg in this case is not moving. Therefore, the majority of your weight and the fact that you push off once you recover from that lunge from that same leg will allow you to still do this lunge. You still get to have some of the benefits, lower stance, more reach from the lunge, but it will be less risky and it's a lot easier to recover from this. So I guess that when we do see a lunge in Legküchner, it's meant to be a backwards one. Now, we find this backward lunge quite a bit when someone does something unexpected, something stupid, and you want to punish them by getting the point into their face. So very quickly exploding your messer forward while putting most of your weight on your front leg and then immediately recovering is how you should be doing these backward lunges. Now, Now that we've covered the backward lunges, we've also got cross steps. Now, I do have to say, these are not explicitly mentioned in Leküchner, so I might be reading way too much into the text here, but I think there's a case to be made for including them. I think the most clear example we can find in the Wecker, where if we assume that you have your right foot in front and you perform a Wecker against someone who's already quite close to you, you can kind of actively use the Wecker to shove it out to the side by making this cross step and immediately overbind if you're going to be winding over it like that. And looking at the foot position, you can make a case that there is some sort of a cross step going on. There's a couple of other places in the manuscript where a cross step is hinted at in the illustrations, but it's never mentioned explicitly. So you can do it if you want. I think it works in certain situations. Just know that it's not mentioned in the manuscript explicitly. Now, something far more interesting and I think far more versatile is the Zweifachtritt, or the double step. And this thing turns up all over the manuscript. It's a very interesting type of footwork, and it can best be described as using a gathering step to create a bit of a launch pad to perform your next move from. Now, I'm not calling this a launch pad without reason, because yeah, you kind of look unbalanced if you're there, but as Martin Enzi once said, it's a balanced imbalance. You're going to be falling into a direction from here, but depending on the direction, there's a lot of options you can take. And it's very unclear to your opponent at any given time what that direction is going to be, so you can use it for a number of different plays and techniques. The first one that you see is pretty much using the gathering step to come forward very quickly. It's almost like you're using advancing step in this way to keep presenting the point and at some point present a Durchwechsel to your opponent. Now, another way to be using the Zweifachtritt is, for instance, with the Pogen. The Pogen is, of course, a very simple and very good technique. You use a hanging parry to deflect any attack that comes towards you, step out to the side and attack to the other direction. Leküchner combines this with the double step to give you a ridiculous amount of flexibility, because the same Pogen can, with a different direction from your second step in the double step, become something completely different than the other option that you have. So basically, against an attack that's coming in from your left side, you can perform a Pogen where you step out towards your right side, but you can also decide to go to your left side, getting into all kinds of really interesting wrestling situations instead of being able to strike. The double step gives you a ridiculous amount of flexibility to getting close or far away from your opponent. It allows you to go past your opponent or get close enough to that you can wrestle and control them. It's really excellent for that. And the final set of plays where you see the Zweifachtritt a lot is with feints. So you can use the Zweifachtritt to pretend to move to one side and then go to another. And you can really build on this a lot. There's this one play in Leküchner, which you can find in multiple spots, which is called the Treffer, or the hitter, or beater maybe even. And the Treffer is meant to really go past an opponent. So you make a couple of feints from the Tverhau or from a Zucken, and from there you keep doubling, basically moving past your opponent using a cross step and double stepping to go past the opponent until you end up behind them and get to strike them in the back of their head, as we can see here. Now, this gives you so much distance in a short amount of time that I step out of the frame. The camera doesn't quite catch the last move. This is pretty much what the Zweifachtritt in combination with a cross step can achieve if you do that like that. And this is a very clear example of something that I can definitely see coming from Großfechten into Leküchner's manuscript. So there we have it. These are all the examples of the footwork that Leküchner specifically shows or even writes about. And I think that these are a very nice addition to any sort of fencing. I put them in longsword, much to the annoyance of people that I fence with. It's a lot of fun, and I can recommend anyone do that. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a comment, press the like button, and of course do not forget to subscribe as well. Now, I also would like to give a shout out to my patrons. Thanks a lot for continuing to support me. It's really nice to be able to make more videos for you, and it's really cool that you're helping me making that happen. Anyway, cheers, keep safe, keep fencing, I'll catch you in the next one.